At the hospital for my wife's broken bone, a nurse quietly slipped me a note that read, "Check the camera." The note pressed into my palm at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday felt cold, like metal. I'd been sitting in room 307 of Mercy General Hospital for 73 hours straight, watching my wife Sarah sleep in traction. Both legs suspended in casts, ropes and pulleys holding her up at precise angles the orthopedic surgeon had specified. The whole apparatus looked medieval. Steel bars, weights, white plaster encasing her from hip to ankle. Sarah had been driving home from her sister's place in Evanston when her brakes failed on Lakeshore Drive. That's what the police report said. Hit the concrete median at 43 miles per hour. The Subaru Outback we'd bought 3 years ago was totaled. Sarah was lucky to be alive. That's what everyone kept telling me. Lucky to be alive. Dr. Richard Morrison, 51 years old, chief orthopedic surgeon, 23 years at Mercy General, had shown me the x-rays on Thursday morning. Bilateral femur fractures, severe trauma to both tibias, possible nerve damage that could mean permanent mobility issues. Your wife is going to need extensive physical therapy, he'd said, pointing to the fracture lines with his pen. 6 months minimum before we know the full extent of recovery. She's looking at a year, possibly 18 months, before she walks normally again. If she walks normally. I'd sat down hard in the consultation room chair, my vision going fuzzy at the edges. What does she need from me? Support, patience, and probably some modifications to your home. We're talking wheelchair ramps, grab bars, possibly a hospital bed on the first floor if you have stairs. The brownstone. My parents' 3-story brownstone in Lincoln Park. The one they'd left me when they passed 5 years ago. The one with the narrow Victorian staircases and the bedrooms all on the 3rd floor. Whatever she needs, I'd said, and I meant it. For 3 days, I barely left her side. My firm, Bennett and Associates, where I'd been a corporate attorney for 8 years, had been understanding about the emergency leave. My boss, Patricia Chen, had sent flowers and told me to take as much time as I needed. I monitored Sarah's IV drip, helped the nurses adjust her position every few hours to prevent bed sores, managed the bedpan situation with as much dignity as I could preserve for both of us, kept the casts dry when they gave her sponge baths, held water to her lips when she couldn't reach it herself. I was running on coffee from the 3rd floor vending machine in pure love. Sarah moaned softly around 3 a.m., pulling me out of the half-doze I'd fallen into in the chair beside her bed. I shot up immediately, reaching for the water cup. "Hey, you okay? Need something?" Her eyes fluttered open. Those green eyes I'd fallen in love with 9 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. Now they looked glassy, drugged, pain-glazed. "Mark," she whispered, "this is too hard on you. You should go home, sleep in a real bed." I forced a smile, even though my back was screaming from 3 nights in a hospital chair. "You're my wife. I'm not going anywhere. Where's Jen?" Jen, Sarah's cousin, 29 years old, between jobs, had been staying in our guest room for the past 2 months while she got on her feet. She'd been helpful since the accident, running errands, bringing food, handling paperwork with the insurance company. "She went back to the house to make you that lentil soup you like," I said. "She'll bring it tomorrow morning." Sarah nodded weakly and closed her eyes again. The door opened. Emily Chen, head nurse on the overnight shift, 42 years old, had worked at Mercy General for 19 years according to her ID badge, rolled in with her medication cart. She'd been looking at me strangely for the past 2 days. Not suspicious exactly. More like she'd decided something but kept swallowing it back. Like she wanted to say something but couldn't figure out how. "Mr. Hayes," she said quietly. "Time for Mrs. Hayes's medication." I stood up, stretching my back, moved away from the bed to give her room to work. Emily checked Sarah's vitals with sharp efficiency. Temperature, blood pressure, pulse ox. Then she examined the casts, running her fingers along the edges, checking for swelling or discoloration. Her movements were practiced, professional, but her eyes kept flicking to me. Then she turned. "Mr. Hayes, could you do me a favor? We're running low on saline bags on this floor. Could you grab 2 from the main nurses' station? 3rd floor, east wing." Odd request. Nurses usually restock their own supplies, but I was too tired to question it. "Sure, no problem." As I passed her on my way to the door, something cool pressed into my palm. A folded piece of paper. Small, precise, so fast it felt like a pinprick. Emily's finger rose to her lips behind Sarah's sleeping form. "Shh." My stomach dropped 6 floors. I walked into the fluorescent-lit hallway on legs that suddenly felt unsteady, turned the corner past the elevators, found an empty family waiting room with the lights off, sat down in one of those awful plastic chairs and unfolded the paper with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. 3 lines in careful nursing handwriting. "Stop coming at night. Check security footage. Last night, 1 to 3 a.m. She's faking when you leave." My vision went spotty. The room tilted. "She's faking." I read it again, then again. The words didn't change. "She's faking when you leave." I looked at my hands holding the note. At my wedding ring, earring, white gold, engraved with our initials and the date, August 14th, 2019. At the coffee stains on my shirt from the vending machine. At the hospital bracelet they'd given me as Sarah's designated visitor. Then details I'd ignored, rationalized, or dismissed started clicking into place like puzzle pieces I'd been too close to see. Sarah refusing to let me examine the casts closely. Don't touch them, Mark. They're sensitive. The doctor said no unnecessary contact. Sarah suddenly keeping her phone locked under her pillow instead of on the bedside table where I could help her with it. The pain medication makes me paranoid. I just feel better knowing where it is. Sarah groaning louder, more dramatically, whenever Jen visited, playing up the pain. But when it was just me, sometimes she seemed comfortable, almost normal. I'd written it off, told myself pain affected people differently, told myself she was embarrassed to seem weak in front of her cousin but could be vulnerable with me. But what if I'd been wrong? I destroyed the note in the men's bathroom down the hall, tore it into pieces smaller than confetti and flushed it, splashed cold water on my face, stared at myself in the mirror. Don't panic. Get proof first. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Kevin Reyes, college roommate, computer science major who'd gone into cybersecurity consulting. We'd stayed close over the years, occasional beers, fantasy football league, standing Tuesday lunch dates before the accident. I called him from the stairwell at 3:47 a.m. Mark, Jesus man, it's almost 4 in the morning. Is Sarah okay? Kevin, I need a favor, a big one, and I need you not to ask questions until after you help me. Silence. Then, how big? I need security footage from Mercy General Hospital, room 307, between 1 and 3 a.m. last night. More silence. Longer this time. Mark, that's serious. Hospital security systems are locked down tight. If I access that without authorization, I need to know, Kevin, please. I'll explain everything after you send it to me. This is about Sarah? Yes. I could hear him breathing, thinking, weighing risks against friendship. Give me 2 hours. And Mark, whatever's on that footage, you sure you want to see it? No, but I need to. Kevin sent me a secure link at 6:23 a.m. I was sitting in my car in the hospital parking garage, engine off, phone plugged into the charger. The message read, pulled from archived footage, 48-hour window before automatic deletion, saved to encrypted cloud, password, Sarah 2019. Don't ask how I got this. Destroy after viewing. I sat there for 5 minutes, staring at the link, my finger hovering over it. Whatever was on this footage would change everything. If Emily was wrong, if this was all a misunderstanding, I'd be violating Sarah's privacy while she lay injured and vulnerable. If Emily was right, I clicked the link. The video loaded in grainy black and white. Overhead view from the ceiling-mounted security camera. Timestamp, 1:03 a.m. There I was on screen, younger looking somehow in the harsh camera lighting, leaning down to kiss Sarah's forehead, adjusting her blanket, whispering something I couldn't hear. Then I left the frame. The door closed behind me. Sarah lay still, eyes closed, peaceful. I waited, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. 1 minute passed, then 2. At 1:04 a.m. and 37 seconds, Sarah's eyes snapped open, not groggy, not drugged, alert, sharp, focused. She lifted her head off the pillow and looked around the room, confirming she was alone. Then she moved her legs, the legs that were supposed to be broken, that Dr. Morrison had said were severely fractured, that were encased in casts and suspended in traction. She lifted them, rotated them at the knees, flexed her feet inside the casts like someone working out morning stiffness. The traction rig creaked, but held. She'd figured out exactly how much movement the setup allowed without triggering alarms. My hands went numb. The phone nearly slipped from my grip. Sarah grabbed her phone from under her pillow and started texting, thumbs moving fast, smiling at whatever responses she got. At 1:17 a.m., the door opened. Jen walked in, carrying 2 plastic bags, one from a restaurant, one from a liquor store. Mark gone? Jen asked. I couldn't hear her voice, but I could read her lips clearly. Sarah laughed. Real, easy, nothing like the weak sounds she made when I was there. Yeah, he went to crash in the on-call room for a few hours. God, I was starving. Jen pulled out containers, fried chicken from Harold's, coleslaw, biscuits, 2 bottles of Stella Artois. They ate, talked, laughed like they were having a girls' night instead of sitting in a hospital room where Sarah was supposedly recovering from catastrophic injuries. I watched the timer. 1:23, 1:34, 1:41. At 1:47 a.m., their body language changed. They leaned closer together. Jen pulled out her phone and showed Sarah something on the screen. Sarah wiped chicken grease from her fingers with a napkin and nodded, said something that made Jen grin. Then Sarah's face got serious. She said something longer, several sentences. Jen listened intently. I couldn't hear them, couldn't read their lips from this angle, but I watched Sarah gesture toward the window, toward the door, toward her legs in their fake prison of plaster and steel. Whatever she was saying, Jen agreed enthusiastically. At 2:04 a.m., they cleaned up. Jen took all the trash, containers, bottles, napkins, and stuffed it back into the plastic bags. Sarah arranged herself back in the bed, eyes closed, playing dead again. Jen left at 2:09 a.m. Sarah stayed asleep until 2:47 a.m. When I came back into the room, the video ended. I sat in my car in that parking garage and watched it again. Then a third time, then a fourth. Each viewing made it worse, more real, more undeniable. My wife of 5 years, the woman I'd been taking care of day and night, the woman I'd been terrified for, was faking everything. But why? I didn't go back to the hospital right away. Instead, I drove home to Lincoln Park at 7 a.m., letting myself into the brownstone my parents had left me. 3 stories, original Victorian details, 12-foot ceilings, hardwood floors that creaked in all the familiar places, the house where I'd grown up, where I'd brought Sarah as a newlywed, where we'd planned to raise kids someday. The house was worth $1.8 million in the current market, maybe more. Location in Lincoln Park, period details, good bones, my inheritance, my anchor. I went to my home office, 2nd floor, overlooking the backyard, and opened the wall safe behind the bookshelf. Inside, the deed to the house, life insurance policies, investment account statements, my parents' will, emergency cash, passports, everything still there, untouched. But for how long? I locked the office door and started digging through Sarah's things. Not proud of it, but the video had obliterated any sense of trust I had left. Her laptop was in the guest room where Jen had been staying, password protected, but I knew Sarah's patterns. Tried her birthday, her mother's name, our anniversary, nothing. Then I tried Lincoln 2019, the brownstone's address, plus the year we got married. It unlocked. Her email was already open. I started scrolling through recent messages, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the trackpad. Most of it was innocuous. Shopping confirmations, subscriptions, Facebook notifications. Then I found a folder labeled DP. Inside were emails between Sarah and someone named Derek Palmer, dates going back 8 months. The first email was from February. Sarah, per our discussion, your current outstanding balance is $47,000. Interest accruing at 22% annually. Need payment plan or collateral immediately. DP. Sarah's response. Derek, I'm working on it. I have assets but need time to liquidate. Give me 3 months. More emails followed. Each one the balance getting higher. $52,000, $68,000, $93,000. The most recent email was from October 15th, 3 days before Sarah's accident. Sarah, final notice. Balance now $197,000 with penalties and accrued interest. You have 2 weeks to produce payment or we move to enforcement. I've tried to be patient given our history, but my partners are losing patience. We need the money or we need collateral. DP. Sarah's response, sent at 11:47 p.m. on October 15th. Derek, I have a plan. There's a property, a brownstone in Lincoln Park worth close to $2 million. It's in my husband's name, but I can get him to sell it. The accident happened tonight. Timing is perfect. He's emotional, vulnerable. I'll convince him we need the money for medical expenses and long-term care. Once the house sells, you get your $200K plus interest. I'll have enough left over to start fresh. Give me 1 month. I read it 3 times. The accident happened tonight. Timing is perfect. The brakes didn't fail. She'd caused the accident on purpose. My vision tunneled. The room spun. I thought I might throw up, but there was more. Another folder labeled medical. Inside were emails with Dr. Richard Morrison, except they weren't doctor-patient communications. They were personal, friendly, conspiratorial. Rich, thanks for the dramatic X-ray consultation with Mark. He bought it completely. Keep emphasizing the permanent disability angle. The more scared he is, the easier it'll be to convince him to liquidate assets. Drinks this weekend? Dr. Morrison's response. Sarah, happy to help, but we need to be careful. If anyone reviews these records closely, the fabricated fractures will be obvious. Keep me out of any legal complications. RM, my entire body went cold. The X-rays were fake, or staged, or something. The doctor was in on it. I took screenshots of everything, every email, every conversation, every piece of evidence. Then I called the one person I trusted more than anyone, Patricia Chen, my boss. Patricia, I need help, legal help, and I need it confidentially. Patricia met me at a Starbucks in Wicker Park at noon. She brought someone with her, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an expensive briefcase. Mark, this is Rebecca Torres. She's a family law attorney, 26 years in practice, specializes in fraud and divorce cases. Whatever you tell us stays privileged. Rebecca shook my hand with the kind of firm grip that inspired confidence. Mr. Hayes, Patricia explained you're in a difficult situation. Tell me everything. I showed them the video, the emails, the financial records I'd found documenting Sarah's gambling debts. Because that's what Derek Palmer was, a loan shark. Sarah had been gambling, online poker, sports betting, casino trips to Indiana and Michigan, and losing, consistently, for at least 2 years. Rebecca watched the video without expression, made notes on a legal pad, asked clarifying questions in a calm, clinical clinical tone that somehow made everything more bearable. Mr. Hayes, your wife has committed several crimes: insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, potentially reckless endangerment if she intentionally caused the accident, and she's attempting to defraud you of your marital assets through deception. What do I do? First, we protect your assets. Today, right now, we'll file an emergency motion to freeze all joint accounts and prevent any transactions involving the brownstone without court approval. I'll have that done by 3 p.m. Second, we gather more evidence. Everything you have is good, but we need ironclad documentation. Medical records showing the discrepancies. Financial records proving the gambling debts. Communication logs between Sarah and Dr. Morrison proving conspiracy. Can your friend Kevin get more security footage? Probably. Get it. Every night for the past week, if possible. We need to establish a pattern. Patricia leaned forward. Mark, you need to decide how you want to handle this. Quietly through divorce proceedings, or publicly through criminal charges. I thought about it. About Sarah eating fried chicken and laughing while I suffered in an on-call room. About her planning to steal my parents' house. About Dr. Morrison falsifying medical records to help her. I want her exposed, I said. Completely. Rebecca nodded. Then we'll need more help. I know a private investigator, David Walsh, former Chicago PD detective, 20 years on the force before going private. He can document everything in a way that holds up in court. And we'll need to report Dr. Morrison to the state medical board. Do it. One more thing, Mr. Hayes. These loan sharks, Derek Palmer and his associates, they're dangerous. Once they realize Sarah can't pay, they may escalate. You need to protect yourself. I'm going to recommend you speak with Detective Sarah Martinez at the Chicago PD Fraud Division. She's experienced with organized crime lending operations. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. This is really happening. Yes, and I'm sorry, but we're going to get you through this. David Walsh, 53 years old, graying at the temples, had the weathered look of someone who'd seen everything twice, met me at my office that afternoon. Mr. Hayes, Ms. Torres briefed me. I've reviewed the materials you provided. This is an impressive amount of evidence, but we need more, particularly around the loan shark angle. What do you need from me? Access to your wife's phone records, email archives, any communication between her and Derek Palmer. I'll also need to establish surveillance, watch who visits her at the hospital, track their movements, identify Palmer's operation. Isn't that illegal? David smiled without humor. I'm a licensed private investigator. Everything I do is within legal boundaries for the purpose of protecting a client from fraud. Your wife has no reasonable expectation of privacy in her criminal conspiracy. How long will this take? 72 hours for comprehensive documentation. Can you maintain your current routine at the hospital without tipping her off? That was the hard part. Going back, pretending, playing the devoted husband while knowing everything I knew. Yeah, I said. I can do that. For the next 3 days, I went back to the hospital every morning, sat by Sarah's bed, held her hand, brought her magazines and soup and flowers, and watched her perform. Because that's what it was, a performance. Once you knew what to look for, it was obvious. The way she groaned louder when nurses entered. The way she made sure her face looked pained whenever anyone checked on her. The way she kept her phone hidden and got nervous when I came back unexpectedly. Jen visited every afternoon, bringing food and staying for exactly 47 minutes each time. David's surveillance team documented every visit, every exchange, every moment. On the third night, Sarah brought up the brownstone. We were alone, 2 a.m. She'd been sleeping, but woke up when I shifted in my chair. Mark, she said softly, we need to talk about something. What is it? Dr. Morrison was honest with me today about my prognosis. Her voice trembled, performance level trembling. It's worse than he told you. He didn't want to scare you, but I made him give me the truth. My stomach tightened. How much worse? I might never walk normally again, might need a wheelchair permanently, definitely need a first-floor bedroom, extensive modifications to the house, full-time care for at least 6 months. She trailed off, tears sliding down her cheeks. Real tears. Impressive. The medical bills are already over $180,000. Insurance is capped at $100,000 for the year. Dr. Morrison is recommending specialists, experimental treatments. We're looking at another $200,000 minimum, probably more. Sarah, I know what you're going to say, that we'll figure it out, but Mark, we don't have that kind of money. Your salary covers our lifestyle, but not medical catastrophe. My job won't hold my position for more than 3 months. We'll lose my income, and the debt. She looked at me with those green eyes, now wet with calculated tears. We need to sell the brownstone. There it was. The brownstone, I repeated. I know how much it means to you. Your parents, your childhood, everything. But Mark, we're talking about my life, my mobility, our future. That house is worth almost $2 million. We could sell it, pay off the medical expenses, buy something smaller and more accessible, and still have money left over for whatever comes next. She grabbed my hand. Please, I need you to think about this. Really think about it. I looked down at our joined hands, at her wedding ring matching mine, at the IV line still taped to her arm even though she didn't need it. I'll think about it, I said. Relief washed over her face. Thank you. That's all I ask. Just think about it. She fell back asleep, or pretended to. I sat there until morning, watching her breathe, and felt absolutely nothing. David Walsh called me at 6 a.m. the next day. We have everything, complete documentation. Derek Palmer is exactly who we thought. Runs a loan operation out of a front business in Bridgeport. We've identified 4 associates who work enforcement. Photographed them meeting with your wife's cousin Jennifer twice this week at a diner in Ukrainian Village. The operation is substantial. FBI has an open investigation. The FBI? I contacted Detective Martinez yesterday. She's working with a joint task force targeting organized illegal lending in Chicago. Your wife's case fits their pattern. They're interested. What happens now? We spring the trap. Today, this afternoon. You ready? Yes. Rebecca Torres called 10 minutes later. Mark, I've filed divorce papers this morning. Emergency protective order for your assets. The brownstone is protected. Sarah cannot sell it, transfer it, or encumber it without court approval. I've also filed a complaint with the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation regarding Dr. Morrison's conduct, and I've sent copies of all evidence to Detective Martinez. What about the criminal charges? That's up to you. We can move forward with charges against Sarah for fraud, insurance fraud, and conspiracy. But Mark, I need you to understand. Once we do this, there's no going back. This becomes public, messy, painful. She tried to steal my parents' house. Then we move forward. Detective Martinez wants to be present when you confront Sarah. She's working with the FBI to use this as leverage against Derek Palmer's operation. If Sarah cooperates, she might avoid some charges. And if she doesn't, then she faces the full extent of the law. At 2:47 p.m. that Thursday afternoon, exactly 1 week after Emily Chen had slipped me that note, I walked into room 307 at Mercy General Hospital for the last time. Sarah was alone. Jen had left 20 minutes earlier, documented by David's surveillance team. Mark! Sarah's face lit up with manufactured joy. You're early. Is everything okay? Actually, we need to talk. About the brownstone. About your medical expenses. About everything. She tried to sit up straighter, wincing dramatically. Of course. Did you make a decision? I did. But first, I want to show you something. I pulled out my phone and set it on the tray table beside her bed. Opened the video file Kevin had sent me. What is this? Just watch. I pressed play. The security footage filled the screen. Grainy, black and white. Timestamp visible. Sarah's face on screen. Eyes closed. Peaceful. Then me leaving. Then her eyes snapping open. Then her moving her legs. Then Jen arriving with food and beer. Sarah's real face, the one in the hospital bed right now, went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, panic, calculation. Mark, I can explain. No, you can't. I kept my voice level. I've watched this video probably 50 times now. I've also read your emails with Derek Palmer about your $197,000 gambling debt. Your emails with Dr. Morrison about fabricating your injuries. Your plan to sell my parents' house to pay off loan sharks. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. I have surveillance footage of Jen meeting with Palmer's associates. Financial records of your gambling losses over the past 2 years. Expert testimony that your fractures are either minimal or non-existent. Documentation of everything. The door opened. Detective Sarah Martinez walked in. Early 40s, CPD shield on her belt. 21 years on the force according to the introduction she'd given me yesterday. Behind her came David Walsh and a man I didn't recognize. FBI badge, suit, serious expression. Mrs. Hayes, Detective Martinez said. I'm Detective Sarah Martinez, Chicago Police Department, Fraud Division. This is Special Agent Thomas Rivera from the FBI. We'd like to ask you some questions about Derek Palmer and your involvement with illegal lending operations. Sarah's face went white. I want a lawyer. That's your right. But Mrs. Hayes, we're offering you a one-time opportunity to cooperate. Derek Palmer's organization is under federal investigation. If you provide testimony about your dealings with them, we can potentially reduce charges against you for the insurance fraud and conspiracy charges. Charges? Sarah's voice cracked. Agent Rivera stepped forward. Mrs. Hayes, you're currently under investigation for insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, making false statements to insurance companies, and attempted theft through deception. These are serious charges, federal and state. You're looking at significant prison time without cooperation. Sarah turned to me, desperation replacing the careful performance. Mark, please, don't do this. We can work this out. I made mistakes, but we're married. We can fix this. You faked a severe injury to manipulate me into selling my parents' house, I said quietly. You worked with a corrupt doctor to falsify medical records. You ran up $200,000 in gambling debts and thought you could steal from me to pay them off. You put me through a week of agony while you ate fried chicken and laughed with your cousin about how easy I was to fool. Tears started down her face, real ones now. Mark, no, you were wrong about one thing. You said I'd always sacrifice for you. You said you had me figured out, but you were wrong the moment you decided my parents' house was yours to take. The door opened again. 3 men walked in. Derek Palmer's associates, the same ones David had photographed meeting with Jen. They looked around the room, took in the police presence, and stopped. stopped. The lead guy, mid-30s, expensive watch, dead eyes, looked at Sarah with something between contempt and resignation. "Mrs. Hayes, we heard you were ready to discuss payment." Detective Martinez stepped between them and Sarah. "Gentlemen, I'm going to need you to step outside. This is now an active police investigation." Deadeyes looked at her badge, then at Agent Rivera's, then back at Sarah. "Guess you're not getting that money after all." He turned to leave, then paused. "Palmer's going to be very disappointed." "Mr. Palmer will be receiving his own visitors soon," Agent Rivera said. "I suggest you retain legal counsel." They left. Sarah collapsed into the hospital bed, the traction rig clanking as her broken legs moved freely. The performance was over. "Mrs. Hayes," Detective Martinez said, "we can do this here or at the station. Your choice." Sarah looked at me one last time. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't leave me. Please." I looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman I'd married 5 years ago, the woman I'd trusted, the woman I'd been willing to sacrifice everything for, and felt absolutely nothing. "You weren't wrong about one thing," I said quietly. "You were wrong about everything. The first moment you decided I was someone you could use instead of someone you should love." I walked toward the door. "Mr. Hayes," Detective Martinez called after me. I turned. "We'll need your testimony. Full cooperation. Are you prepared for that?" "Completely." I left room 307 and walked through the hospital corridors while Sarah's screaming echoed behind me, real emotion finally breaking through the performance. Too late to matter. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Sarah pled guilty to insurance fraud and conspiracy charges, got 18 months in minimum security, eligible for parole after 12. Derek Palmer's organization was dismantled by the FBI Joint Task Force, with Sarah's testimony providing key evidence. Dr. Richard Morrison lost his medical license. State Medical Board found him guilty of falsifying medical records and conspiracy to commit fraud. He's fighting the decision in appeals court, but his career is over. Jennifer Chen, Sarah's cousin, was charged as an accessory. Took a plea deal for 6 months and probation. The brownstone is still mine. I still live there, though I'm looking at selling it eventually. Too many memories, good ones and bad ones mixed together until I can't tell them apart anymore. Patricia Chen helped me through the worst of it. So did Kevin, who felt guilty about helping me find the truth, even though it broke my life apart. "You deserve to know," I told him over beers last week. "If I'd stayed blind, I'd have lost everything. At least now I lost her, but kept myself." Emily Chen, the nurse who started all of this with a folded note at 3:17 a.m., called me last month. "Mr. Hayes, I wanted to check on you. Make sure you were okay." "I am, thanks to you. I almost didn't give you that note. Thought maybe it wasn't my place. Maybe it would make things worse." "It made things true. That's different than worse." She was quiet for a moment. "I'm glad you're okay. Your wife, ex-wife, she fooled a lot of people. But once I started paying attention to the patterns, to how she behaved when you weren't there versus when you were, I couldn't stay silent. You saved me. Thank you. You saved yourself, Mr. Hayes. I just gave you the tools." Last week, I went back to Mercy General to donate to their nursing scholarship fund. Set up an endowment in Emily Chen's name, $50,000 for nurses who demonstrate exceptional patient advocacy. She cried when the hospital director told her. Called me immediately. "Mr. Hayes, you didn't have to. You changed my life with 3 lines on a piece of paper. This is the least I can do." I think about Sarah sometimes, about the woman I thought I'd married versus the woman who tried to destroy me, about how close I came to losing everything because I trusted too completely. But mostly, I think about that moment at 3:17 a.m. when Emily Chen slipped that note into my palm and changed everything. Check the camera. 3 words that saved my life. Sarah thought she had me figured out, thought I was easy to manipulate, thought I'd sacrifice anything for her without question. She was right about the sacrifice part. I would have given her anything, until I realized she was taking everything. If you made it this far, thank you for reading. Some betrayals teach you who you really are, and who you thought you knew.